Hi, this is Ben from Fixitgearware Security, and today we are here with another episode of the Cybersecurity Q A Series. Today's episode marks it the fourth since we started this series, and we're excited to bring to you more interesting and powerful questions. The choice of today's questions spans across a series of topics, right from web application attacks down to web application and its protocol. Then we moved on to programming language questions and tools in testing web applications. Subsequently, we then summed it up with a question on web application traffic. So without wasting much of your time, let's take a deep dive straight to the agenda of today. Question number 1. Which of the following best describes SQL injection attack? Option A involves the crafting of malicious inputs. Option B, these malicious inputs can be submitted via web application forms. Option C, causing the application to behave as expected. Option D, causing the web application to behave in an unexpected manner. Option E, A, B, and D. Option F, all of the above. Going back to the question, we highlighted two keywords. The first one is best, and the second keyword here is SQL injection attack. And the question also asks us which of the list of options describes the SQL injection attack. So to get the answer to this question, let's define what SQL injection attack is all about. SQL injection is an attack that involves the crafting of malicious inputs. These inputs are then injected into a web application form, causing the web application to behave in an unintended manner. So when we go back to the list of options given to us, involves the crafting of malicious inputs is a right answer. These malicious inputs can be submitted via web application form is also a right answer. Causing the application to behave as expected? No, this is a wrong answer. Causing the web application to behave in an unexpected manner? This is the right answer. So after going through the list of options given, option A is correct, option B is correct, option D is correct. So the right answer to this question is option E, which is A, B, and D. And that's the right answer to this question. So moving on to the next question. Question number 2. Which of the following are true about domain names and IP addresses? Option A, they are placeholders for IP addresses. Option B, domain names unlike IP addresses are unique. Option C, domain names like IP addresses are unique. Option D, you do not need to register IP addresses, but you need to register domain names to be able to use. Going back to the question, the two keywords here are true about domain names and IP address. Option A, they are placeholders for IP addresses. True. So having read all these options, let's define what a domain name is. Domain names are placeholders for IP addresses, and like IP addresses, they are required to be registered. Going back to the options we were given, option A, they are placeholder for IP addresses, is the right answer. Option B, domain names unlike IP addresses are unique. No, it's wrong, because no two domain names are the same, and no two IP addresses are the same. Your IP as a web application user can be 192.168.1, and the other person's IP address can be 64.233.189.147. So no two domain names and no two IP addresses are the same. So option B is wrong. Option C, domain names like IP addresses are unique. From the definitions we are given, yes, domain names like IP addresses are unique. Option D, you do not need to register IP addresses, but you need to register domain names to be able to use. option D is wrong, because to be able to use an IP address, you have to ensure the IP address is registered. And also, whenever you register a domain name, the associated IP addresses to that domain name is also released to that particular domain name. So the correct answer here is option A. They are placeholders for IP addresses. And option C, domain names like IP addresses are unique. So the correct answer to this question is option E. A and C. Moving on to the next question. Which of the following is an application layer protocol? A. DNS, B. TCP, C. IPv4, D. MAC, E. A, B, and D, F, all of the above. To be able to answer this question, let's have the definitions of the various options given. DNS, which stands for Domain Name System, is a web application layer protocol. TCP, which stands for Transmission Control Protocol, is a transport layer protocol. IPv4 is the Internet Protocol version 4. It is also the Internet Protocol. MAC, which stands for Media Access Control, is a network protocol associated with the network layer. So going back to the question, which of the following is an application layer protocol? Since the question we're asked is about application layer protocol, the correct answer here is option A, which is DNS, Domain Name System. Also, additional tips for remembering these various protocols is, for example, for IPv4, a system uses it to gain access to the internet. For example, your router has its own public IP address, which is the gateway to the internet. And the DNS also uses the IP address to resolve a given domain name when requested. So that is why it is called the Internet Protocol. So it's used by not just your router, but also by a web application when the DNS wants to resolve it. MAC address, on the other hand, is a bond address known as the physical address by the manufacturer of your network card. So that is why it is known as the network protocol. This is just a tip on how to remember. And TCP is a transport layer for data transmission. So whenever you come across such questions, always think where these various protocols are associated in networking, because understanding what aspect of networking they're associated with is an easy way for you to remember these various protocols. For example, for IPv4, a system uses it to gain access to the internet, and DNS record uses it to resolve a given domain name request. That is why it is called the Internet Protocol. MAC address, on the other hand, is a bond address known as the physical address by the manufacturer of your network card. So basically, it's bound on the network card. This is what makes it a network protocol. TCP, on the other hand, is a transport layer protocol for data transmission. So whenever you come across given options asking about various protocols, just have an idea of where these protocols are used, or what devices or hardware components or software component that's associated with this protocol. This is an easy way for you to understand the question and be able to give the right answer. Moving on to question number 4. Which of the following describes the method a HTTP request is making? Option A, URL. Option B, put. Option C, headers. Option D, body. Option E, A, B, and C. Option F, all of the above. To be able to answer this question, let's have a definition of the various options given. URL, which stands for Uniform Resource Locator, are part of a HTTP request that describes the actual resources being consulted or fetched. Methods in a HTTP request are actions that the user wants to perform. They are verbs such as get, put, delete, update. Headers, on the other hand, supplies the metadata, which consists of content type the user agent is expecting, and if it accepts compressed responses. Body comprises of extra data that needs to be sent to the server. So having defined these various options, we go back to the question. The two keywords here is method, HTTP request. If we go back to the definitions of the various options that were given, method in a HTTP request are actions that the users want to perform, and we're asked which best describes a method. From the options given, do we have put? Yes, we do have put. So the correct answer to this question is option B, put. Now, moving on to the next question. Which of the following are contained in an HTTP request? A, URL. B, put. C, headers. D, body. E, A, B, and C. F, all of the above. Defining the various options given, URL, which stands for Uniform Resource Locator, are part of a HTTP request that describes the actual resource being consulted or fetched. Methods in a HTTP request are actions that the user wants to perform. They are verbs such as get, put, delete, update. Headers, this supplies metadata, which consists of the content type the user agent is expecting, and if it accepts compressed responses. Body comprises of extra data that needs to be sent to the server. So having read these various options given, we go back to the question. This question looks similar to question number 4. However, we were asked the following are contained in an HTTP request. We're not specifically asked of the method, we're asked of the HTTP request in its entirety. So URL is a part of the content in a HTTP request. Methods are also part of the content in a HTTP request, and these methods might be a get request, put request, delete request, update request. Headers also are content in the HTTP request. This includes the metadata of the specific URL that is being requested or being called, and the body comprises of the extra data that needs to be sent to the server. So option A is correct, option B is correct, option C is correct, option D is correct. So the correct answer to this question is option F, all of the above. Moving on to the next question, question number 6. Which of the following best describes web page rendering? A, software component within a web browser. B, is responsible for transforming HTML web pages into visual representation. C, the visual representation is known as rendering repository. D, the visual representation is known as a rendering pipeline. E, A, B, and D. F, all of the above. To be able to understand the various options given, let's define what a web page rendering is all about. Web page rendering is a software component within a web browser which is responsible for the transformation of HTML web pages into a visual representation that are visible to the screen, known as the rendering pipeline. So going back to the options given, A, software component within a web browser is correct. B, is responsible for transforming HTML web pages into visual representation is correct. C. The visual representation is known as rendering repository is wrong. D. The visual representation is known as rendering pipeline is correct. So option A is correct, option B is correct, option D is correct. This gives option E the best option for this question. A, B, and D. So the answer to this question should be option E, A, B, and D. Question number 7. What does CISO stand for in cybersecurity? A. Chief Internal and Software Officer. B. Chief Information and Software Officer. C. Chief InfoSec and System Officer. D. Chief Information and Security Officer. E. None of the above. F. All of the above. Going back to the question number 7 highlights the word CISO, and the context here is in cybersecurity. So let's have a definition of what CISO is all about in cybersecurity. CISO stands for Chief Information and Security Officer, and the obligation of a CISO is to oversee every cybersecurity event regarding an organization information, cyber, and technology security. So having had a definition of what a CISO is all about, which of the options given best fits the definition? Option A, Chief Internal and Software Officer is wrong. Option B, Chief Information and Software Officer is wrong. Option C, Chief InfoSec and System Officer is wrong. Option D, Chief Information and Security Officer is correct. Option E, none of the above is wrong. Option F, all of the above is wrong. So the answer to this question is option D, Chief Information and Security Officer. Now, let's move on to question number 8. Question number 8. Which of the following programming language was invented in Japan in the mid-90s? A. Python. B. Java. C. COBOL. D. C++. E. None of the above. F. All of the above. So let's have a definition of the actual programming language that was developed in Japan in the mid-90s. Ruby on Rails is the programming language which was invented in the mid-90s in Japan. So, having had a definition of the programming language that was invented in the mid-90s in Japan, option A, Python, is wrong. Option B, Java, is also wrong. Option C, COBOL, is also wrong. Option D, C++ is also wrong. Option E, none of the above is correct. Option F, all of the above is wrong. So the answer to this question number 8 is E, none of the above. Moving on to question number 9. Which of the following describes the right order in brute forcing credentials with a large payload using Bob's suit? I, send to repeater. I, send to intruder. I, set positions. IV, clear positions. V, add payloads. VI, select attack type. VII, intercept on. VII, intercept off. IX, start attack. Option A, I, IV, V, VI, VII, VIII, and IX. So first of all, we have the screenshot of what the Bob suit interface looks like. Going back to the question, the first keyword here is 1. The right order. 2. Brute forcing credentials. 3. With a large payload using Bob suit. If you're a bug bounty hunter, ethical hacker, penetration tester, or red teamer, you would understand the steps and procedures of using the tool Bob Suite, and also familiar with the right orders on how to use this tool in testing the security of a web application. So firstly, before you're able to test a web application using Bob Suite, your intercept must be on, which is VII. After your intercept is on, now depending on the type of attack you want to do and the volume of your payload, if it's just a single payload, then you can use the repeater. Also, testing for SQL injection using just a single payload, you can also use the repeater. However, the question highlights the brute forcing of credentials using a large payload. So to be able to perform this, the next thing we have to do is to send the intercepted request to the intruder. However, before we send this request to the intruder, we have to turn off our intercept, since we are going to relay back the content of the request we just intercepted. So after the intercept is on, the next thing you want to do is to turn off the intercept. Then after the intercept is turned off, the next step you take is to send the request that was intercepted to the intruder. So VII is correct. Then the next is VIII. Then after that, we go to II, which is sent to intruder. Now, after you send to the intruder, the next thing you want to do, because the intercept might have set positions of the request made, is to clear positions. This enables you to set your own positions instead of using the default positions that were set for you. So after sending to the intruder, the next step you need to do is to clear positions. After the positions have been cleared, you highlight in the request that was received where you want to set positions. This gives us the next step that you need to take, which is set positions. After we have set positions, the next thing is we want to add the various payloads that we will be using in these various positions that we have set. So this gives us to option V, add payloads. After we have successfully added the payload, the next thing we want to do is to select our attack type, and that gives us to option VI, which is option 6. Then after we have selected our attack type, the next thing we want to do is to commence our attack by starting the attack, which gives us option IX. So option A is wrong, as sending to repeater is not the first thing we need to do. Option B is wrong, as sending to intruder is not the first thing we need to do. Option C is also wrong, as sending to intruder is not the right thing or the first thing we also have to do. Option D, intercept is on, VII, okay, correct. Then intercept is off, VIII, okay, it's correct. Send to intruder, because we are dealing with a large payload here, II is correct. Clear positions, IV is correct. Set positions, III is correct. Add payload, V is correct, VI. Select attack type is correct. Then IX, start attack, is correct. So the answer to this question is option D, which is VII, VIII, II, IV, III, V, VI, and IX. Option E is wrong. Of course, we have the options right here. Option F is also wrong. So the correct answer to this question is option D. Correct. So for the last question of the day, question number 10, which of the following is the default port number for HTTP://? Option A, 80. Option B, 8080. Option C, 443. Option D, 8081. Option E, none of the above. Option F, all of the above. To be able to answer this question, let's have a definition of what HTTPS is all about. HTTPS stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure. It is a protocol for the transmission of web application data in an encrypted format. These data are encrypted due to the implementation of SSL/TLS over HTTP. By default, HTTPS runs on port 443. So having had the definition of what HTTPS stands for, the correct option or answer to this question is option C, port 443. So for the trophy of the day, if you had 10 over 10, for your first prize, you won the gold trophy. And if you scored 8 over 10, for the second prize, you won a silver trophy. And if you scored 7 over 10, for the third prize, you won a bronze medal. So, we have come to an end of today's episode. Please do not forget to give the likes by pressing the thumbs up button, subscribe by tapping that subscribe button, while ensuring the notification bell is turned on to be the first to get notified when we post a new Q&A series episode. Thanks for watching, and see you next week on another episode of Cybersecurity Q&A series. Bye for now.